Hi, I'm Danny Quinn, and welcome to day 4 of the Christmas special, where we're counting down the days to December 25th. Think of it as kind of like a cinematic advent calendar, where every day leading up to December 25th, we'll have another movie to review. And today, boils and ghouls, it's something of a double whammy, as not only are we celebrating Christmas, but we're also kind of celebrating Halloween, albeit slightly belatedly. I am, of course, talking about Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas. Or at least that's what it's called in the opening credits, but we'll get to that. The premise of the movie is pretty straightforward. Jack Skellington is the Pumpkin King of Halloween Town, a fantastical world full of monsters and supernatural beings who organises annual Halloween celebrations, but has lost his passion for the holiday due to how mundane he feels it has gotten. However, upon discovering the world of Christmas Town, he decides that he's going to try and celebrate the holiday in his own unique way. The Nightmare Before Christmas is a movie that's kind of divisive in a strange way. Not in the traditional sense where you have just as many people who love the film and just as many people who hate it, but more specifically, whose movie it is. It's tempting to simply say that it's Tim Burton's film because it has many of his own distinct visual touches, has several of his collaborators involved, and it's actually based on a poem that Burton wrote during his early days at Disney. But despite Burton's active involvement with the film, it's probably not much of a secret that he didn't actually direct the film. Instead, he deferred those duties onto Henry Selick, a former colleague of his who would go on to direct the likes of James and the Giant Peach and Coraline. It is perhaps fair to say that the two do share similar artistic sensibilities, which is perhaps why Selick wound up directing the film while Burton's name was used to promote the film. Personally, I always saw the movie as a joint effort between the two. Kinda like how From Dusk Till Dawn is very much a Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez film, or how Strange Days is very much like a James Cameron movie, but also just as much of a Catherine Bigelow film. It's Burton's imagination, but funneled through Selick's directorial eye. And yeah, it's definitely imaginative as hell. Many of the designs and ghouls on screen definitely feel like they've come from Burton's imagination, which is where I think a lot of his strengths as a filmmaker lie. This is encapsulated almost immediately with the opening track, This Is Halloween, a gleefully demented little jam that should be in everybody's Halloween playlist, and wondrously sets up the world of Halloween Town. With all of these creepy ghouls and the heavy expressionist imagery, it really feels like a sequel to Beetlejuice in many respects. And with Danny Elfman doing the music for the film, the argument that this movie is Burton's Baby is not entirely without merits. But it's through Selick that we actually feel a remarkable amount of empathy for the characters, especially the lead, Jack Skellington, who's unhappy and lonely despite the fact that he's always the talk of the town every Halloween, or maybe because of it. Of course, whenever Skellington learns about Christmas and tries to bring it to Halloween Town, he completely misunderstands the concept behind it, and things don't go too well for either holiday-themed town. Indeed, the film could be seen as a commentary on colonialism or cultural appropriation. I'm not sure if that was necessarily intentional on Burton or Selick's part, but it's certainly worth thinking about if you ever revisit the film. But ultimately, the main selling point of the film is its world and characters, which are simply fantastic. I absolutely love Jack Skellington. He's lovable and charming, but scary whenever the situation requires it. Even though he's a villain protagonist in many respects, he's a hard character to hate, especially whenever he's trying to spread his infectious, albeit deeply misguided love of Christmas. And Chris Sarandon does a great job voicing the character, although I do think he's kind of blown out of the water by Danny Elfman doing the musical numbers. I also really love the world of Halloween Town itself. It's just such a delightfully realised world with kooky creatures and demonic beings around every corner. I mean, you got a literally two-faced mayor who openly admits that he has no authority and is constantly on the verge of a mental breakdown. This demonic clown who can tear away his face, a melting man. Not only a creature that's under the bed, but also a creature that's under the stairs. The terrible trio of Lock, Shock and Barrel who are assigned the task of kidnapping Mr. Sandy Claus, as they come to call him. And last but not least, you got the treacherous Oogie Boogie, who's not in the film as much as you might think, but he leaves quite the impression. Speaking of the music, I reckon if there's anybody else who could lay claim to the film being their own, it's definitely Danny Elfman. He not only composes the score for the film as he does on many of Burton's films, but also writes all the songs and even sings most of them too. Which is kind of doubly great since I've become something of a pretty big Oingo Boingo fan as of late. I've already gushed about the likes of This Is Halloween and Kidnap the Sandy Claus, but the likes of Jack's Lament, What's This and Oogie Boogie's song are all terrific jams in their own rights. I don't really have too many issues with the film to speak of, aside from the fact that I think maybe the relationship between Jack and Sally, this ragdoll who sort of serves as his love interest, isn't quite as fleshed out as I would have liked it to be. That in the movie is very much on the short side at 76 minutes, but that's really about it. I personally love this film. While the story is kind of on the simple side, it's still very unique after all these years. And the culture clashes between Halloween and Christmas provides for some great humour. It's got lovable characters, it's wondrously animated, it's highly imaginative, and it has a terrific soundtrack to boot. If you're looking for something a little bit more ghoulish under your stocking this Christmas, this movie is definitely one to check out. And did I mention that you can also watch it at Halloween as well, so win-win?